Welcome to New York City Ballet's digital fall season. I'm Jonathan Stafford, the artistic director of the company. Tonight you will see the world premiere of a new work choreographed by Jamar Roberts. This piece marks his first work for the company. For his new work, Jamar chose a piece of music titled Inflated by Spinning by the composer Ambrose Akimusiri. The dancer is NYCB Corps de Ballet member Victor Breu, and the film, which was shot on location on the Lincoln Center Plaza, was directed by Ezra Hurwitz. Please join us immediately following the premiere for a discussion with Jamar and Victor, where you can learn more about this piece and the process that went into the creation. Hope you enjoy the film. Welcome back. My name is Jonathan Stafford, and I'm the artistic director of the New York City Ballet. And joining me today are two very special guests, Jamar Roberts, who's a dancer and choreographer at the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and Victor Breu, who is a corps de ballet dancer at the New York City Ballet. We are here to talk about the film that you just saw, this brand new work choreographed by Jamar and danced by Victor. I guess we have to start with what's going on right now. What have you both been up to? Jamar, let's start with you. What have you been doing the last 6, 7 months?
I have had the privilege to be able to be making work the entire time. There was a commission by Works in Process Guggenheim. I also did a residency with Works in Process Guggenheim. There's this commission here. So I've just been really busy basically making a lot of dance work, both virtual and some small things in person. And I'm really grateful for that because there are a lot of dancers and choreographers that are not able to do that. And every day, literally every day when I wake up and I'm able to say that I'm going to make dance, I'm so grateful for that. So that's basically what's been going on.
So you've been busy as a choreographer. What about as a dancer?
As a dancer?
Have you been able to get in a studio and move around much? Or?
No, not very much. We started back virtually with Ailey. I think it's been 3 weeks now, and that has been the most, I would say, consistent sort of dancing that I've done since this all happened. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I did a small, not a small solo, actually, a pretty big solo for Fall for Dance Festival. That was some dancing, but it was dancing that I was not really conditioned for, I wasn't really prepared for. I kind of feel like I'm always up for dancing most of the time, even if I'm not really prepared, I'm still willing to kind of do what I have to do to like get the dance done. So.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about what your thought process was once we reached out to you and asked if you wanted to do this piece? What was your process of deciding and figuring out exactly what you wanted to do here for this?
It happened over time. I definitely was excited when I got the invitation. As far as like figuring out what I wanted to do, that all kind of came in pieces. I mean, I was walking around the plaza here with a friend of mine and they told me that they had seen dancers in the reflecting pool at one point. I was like, oh, I gotta do that. That's it. I don't know why, I don't even know how I'm gonna make it happen, but I knew from that point that that's what I wanted to do. And then after that, it was just a process of dodging the restrictions, you know what I mean? And I ended up with a pretty strong concept and a pretty strong dancer.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So Victor, how has the last several months been for you?
It's been challenging. I think any dancer can say that, challenging mentally, just because the first point is, you know, we get, in these studios, we get huge spaces, and then when we have to keep up and try to stay active in our, you know, New York City apartments, it's very hard and very frustrating when, you know, you can't, you know, kick your leg up that high, or, you know, you can't turn and then you keep falling and then, you know, you hit your water bottle. It's like, that takes a toll, and especially for me, because when we first started doing online classes, I got angry at myself for not being able to dance the way I can or the way I would want to. So, but throughout the whole summer, I kept cooking. When I had all this time, I was just like, well, might as well, you know, do recipes that I have never done before. So when I wake up that day, I said, oh, what am I in the mood for? And then I just search a recipe and then boom. So I cook a lot for my family almost every day. My mom doesn't cook anymore.
Oh, wow.
So I have like a few cookbooks now, so I've just been cooking.
Yeah, and so what was the process like once you found out you had, okay, I have a goal in mind, I have a project I have to do that's dancing. How did you then gear yourself back up to get back into that kind of mindset?
I was like working out with her friends, you know, maybe like once a week, you know, not very active. And then once I got the offer, I was like, okay, like time to go back to classes, time to start stretching, you know, doing that. And so immediately, like the day after, I started going back to our classes online and, you know, trying to go back slowly. But it was very hard. My Achilles was not very happy with me.
So Victor, when you found out you were going to dance in the water, wondering what your first reaction was?
My first thought, I think the first question that I asked Jamar, I was like, is that allowed? Like, I'm surprised New York City Ballet said yes, and I'm surprised Lincoln Center said yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe they're agreeing to put a dancer in water. But after that, I was just like, okay, like this seems like a great opportunity. It seems very fun, and it was fun. It was very fun.
Yeah, and I got to be on set for some of it and see you moving in there, and it does add to it, I have to say, because it's a different element. And I'm so glad that, number one, you thought that would be a good idea and that you were willing to do it. And we were a bit surprised that Lincoln Center said it was okay, because we thought, there's no way. It sounds like such a cool idea, but I'm sure there's restrictions, and they were really great about it. So I'm glad we were able to pull it off. Jamar, so you're the resident choreographer at Alvin Ailey, but also still a dancer, so you obviously know the dancers really, really well. Can you tell us a little bit of what the process is like working with a dancer that you had never worked before or didn't really know? You had seen him on stage or in class maybe, but you didn't really know him that well.
Yeah, I saw Victor first dance in Justin Peck's Belletras. I just remember, I don't know if it was kind of halfway towards the end of the piece, I just see this like guy with like a lot of energy at one point. It was like a saute or something like that, and I was like, wow, that guy's really good. And I just kind of like watched him from that point on until the end of the piece. And so I knew that I wanted somebody young and that has this type of drive and this kind of energy and this willingness to really go for pretty much whatever I ask. And yeah, I ended up with this guy, and I think that for me it was very scary, honestly. A lot of times when I approach dancers, especially the first, let's say, hour or so, I don't really get like the most. It's a little bit jarring because they're confused. I'm asking them to like move and shift direction and do really awkward shapes and moves and stuff like that. And so I think with Victor and I, that was kind of the case for a little bit, not too long. But I also think he's a really intelligent dancer. And I really appreciate that more than anything, actually, because as the choreographer, we know we have information, but at the same time, we don't know everything, and we're not going to be dancing it. So he had a really great way of figuring out for himself what he needed in order for him to look good, and I really appreciated that.
Victor, so what's it like to be a part of a new work where instead of learning something like learning a balancing piece that you've always wanted to be in, all of a sudden now you're learning something that's completely brand new. You're the first person to ever dance it. What's that like as a dancer, as a young dancer here in the company?
It's very special to be a part of a new work because I think throughout the whole time I kept thinking to myself that I wasn't good enough for this piece or this particular choreography, and then all the time Jamar kept telling me, he's like, no, like it looks really good, and then he kept changing little things to make me feel more organic in the choreography. And then when the piece was finished, every time we ran it, it just felt more and more like me. It felt more and more breathable, more flexible, and just more of me dancing in my room or me dancing in the street, something like that, instead of this kind of legacy piece that, that we're all so familiar with.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And Jamar, can you talk a little bit about how you were able to shift your mindset and kind of move seamlessly from what it appears from how we're looking at it seamlessly into this new space that, I think will continue forward. I think dance on film is being seen now as something that can be very effective and really moving, just like live performance.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. For me, dance on stage is very, so even though, it is live and all the elements are there's a flatness about it that's very like frontal. But when it comes to the stuff that I've done on film, you can really get into more of the nuance of the dancer, the slight turn of the head, or just like the fingers, or even the space the dancer is dancing in. It's just, everything just feels a bit more real, like lived, rather than performative. And I really love that aspect of it because you can there's so much to grasp from to tell the story that you're trying to tell. So I've had a lot of fun with it. I actually don't even think of it as something that will be viewed by others, just because I'm so kind of into the process of making it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And the nice thing about dance on film is you get more than one take.
Yeah.
Because, live performance, how many
Guess
times
what?
do we wish, well, I wish I could have gotten that one a second time.
Exactly.
But no, it's been really so fascinating to see. And I think
Yeah.
we've seen the dance world in general adapt so quickly. And we're able to keep, your company, our company alive
Yeah.
during a time when we're not allowed to have an audience and all those things. So Victor, you've also dabbled with some choreography and shown a real interest in it. So what are some of your influences? I mean, each time you work with a choreographer, do you kind of watch them and say, oh, wow, I really like the process of that? Or are you really feeling like for you choreography is a way to express everything about yourself?
I do like watching choreographers work. I like watching their way of putting out their work, just their thought process and everything. But I don't think I, take that into my. It's just more of kind of like a exploring or something like that. But when I try to choreograph, it is so much more of my personality. It's what I want, let's say, dance to be forever in a way. I pick this music and I'm like, oh, this music has to go with this dance. It has to be like this. And that's my way of choreographing.
I'm glad you brought up music. So Jamara, can you tell us a little bit about the music you chose, your composer, and why this piece?
I was drawn to it mostly because of it has a kind of old sound to it. It's a small chamber piece, and I really loved. To me, it reminds me a lot of Stravinsky, which was a lot of the music that Balanchine used, and I just loved the asymmetry, how it kind of sounds, sounds the way that it sounds.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned before, I didn't really, in terms of, I didn't really know what the piece was going to be about. So like all of the pieces kind of came separately. So first there was the pool, and then there was the music, and then I was like, well, what do I do with the pool and the music? And then the dancer came, and so I just kind of jumped into this music pretty much unknown. I remember having rehearsals with Victor and kind of saying to him, we're just going to start. I don't know this music very well, so just kind of like bear with me. Eventually, I think we both got to learn it pretty well, and it all worked out. But I think it's a really strong score, and it's also really beautiful. I think the flute in particular kind of adds like this really beautiful kind of melody, a melodic feel on top of what the strings are doing. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, I would say it may have been pieces, that started off a little separate, but it really melded together so beautifully.
Yeah.
Both, watching the filming and seeing the finished product. So, really, really exciting. What's the first piece you would like to dance when you do return to the stage with Alvin Ailey?
The first piece I would like to dance when I do return to the stage. Oh, wow.
Putting programming aside, all that stuff. Like, is there something you're just yearning to do since we've been off the stage now for a while?
Probably Night Creature, Alvin Ailey's Night Creature. It's just a fun piece to dance. You go out there, you flirt with the girl, you leave, you come back, you flirt again. It's just like really, it's a really fun piece that I just like to do when I'm really in the mood to perform, and it's also very low stress. So,
Always good for a
yeah.
performance, yeah. How about you, Victor?
I would say, even though I haven't danced it, I love, love, love Kammer Music No. 2. Every time we do it here, I always watch it, every single performance. But that performance, it's a huge boys' core, and someday I hope I would get to dance it, but
Yeah.
that piece for sure.
You're on your way. That's great. All right, well, I'd like to thank you both for joining me today to share some insights into this beautiful work that we've just seen. Thank you, Jamar, for choreographing this piece and sharing your talents with us and your artistry with us. We're very grateful. And,
My pleasure.
And thank you, Victor, for coming out of your apartment and away from the stove to come dance again. It was really fun to put these projects together and get this going again. I'd like to thank the audience for tuning in. We hope everyone stays well during this time, and we hope that you join us again tomorrow for the next premiere. Thank you. Have a good night.